What if I told you the reason you can't stop thinking about them has nothing to do with love? It's 2:47 a.m. Your phone is face down on the table, silent, but your mind isn't. You reread the last message again and again, not because you didn't understand it, but because you're searching for something hidden between the lines. A clue, a shift, a sign that they still care. They were everything until they stopped being available. And suddenly, they became everything you can't stop thinking about. But here's the disturbing question. If love is supposed to feel like closeness, why does absence feel more powerful? Somewhere in the human mind, there is a glitch. We don't always value what is present. We value what is disappearing. This is called the scarcity principle, a psychological bias where the brain assigns higher value to things simply because they are limited, unavailable, or slipping away. But why does the human brain do this? Why does something become more desirable the moment we can't have it? Why does emotional distance feel like attraction? Why does silence feel like signal? Why does the human mind break like this? To understand that, we have to go deeper than psychology. We have to go into survival. Segment 1. The origin of scarcity. Long before relationships, before messages, before modern desire, the human brain was not built for comfort. It was built for survival. Imagine early humans in a world without certainty. No guaranteed food, no guaranteed safety, no guaranteed tomorrow. Every day was a negotiation with danger, hunger, predators, weather, isolation. In that world, one rule silently governed everything. If something is rare, it is valuable. Food that was hard to find meant survival if you obtained it. Water that was scarce meant life itself. Shelter that was limited meant protection from death and exposure. So the brain adapted. It evolved a shortcut, not a thoughtful philosophy, but an instinctive reflex. It began to treat scarcity as importance, not logically, but biologically. This is where survival wiring was formed deep inside the human mind. A system designed not to think, but to react. Fast, emotional, immediate. Fast forward thousands of years. The environment has changed, but the wiring hasn't. Your brain still runs that same ancient program. Except now, it doesn't see food in the wild. It sees people. It sees attention. It sees validation. It sees love. And it reacts the same way it always did. If I can't have it easily, it must matter more. A message that takes longer to reply to feels more valuable. A person who is emotionally distant feels more important. Attention that is inconsistent feels more powerful than attention that is constant. Not because it is valuable, but because your brain confuses difficulty with worth. This is where illusion begins. Because modern scarcity is no longer about survival. No one is dying from lack of attention. No one is freezing because a message wasn't sent back. No one is starving because someone didn't reply. Yet the emotional system inside the brain behaves as if they are. And that's where it becomes dangerous. Because in the modern world, scarcity is no longer natural. It is often engineered, controlled, even weaponized. People withdraw attention on purpose. They delay responses intentionally. They create distance, not out of necessity, but strategy. And your brain, still ancient at its core, misreads every signal. It doesn't ask, is this real danger? It only asks, is this rare? And in that gap between logic and instinct, desire begins to distort. Segment 2. The science of wanting less. Inside your brain, there is a chemical system built around reward prediction, dopamine. Most people think dopamine is pleasure. It's not. Dopamine is anticipation. It is the chemical of maybe. It doesn't spike when you receive something stable or fully complete. It spikes when your brain predicts a reward that feels uncertain but possible. When the outcome is guaranteed, dopamine stays relatively calm. But when the outcome is uncertain, your brain becomes alert, active, almost restless. Now here is where scarcity quietly hijacks the system. When something becomes less available, a person replying slower, a message going unanswered, attention becoming inconsistent. Your brain doesn't reduce interest, it does the opposite. It increases focus, because unpredictability is interpreted as significance. If it's inconsistent, it must be important enough to track. If it disappears and returns, it must be worth monitoring. If it feels uncertain, it must be something you should not lose. This creates a loop inside the reward system. You get attention, dopamine rises. You lose attention, dopamine drops. You regain hope, dopamine spikes higher than before. Each cycle doesn't reset you to zero. It intensifies sensitivity. You become more reactive, more alert, more emotionally invested over time. This is how emotional dependency forms, not because the person is objectively special, but because the pattern is unstable, and the brain confuses instability with importance. It starts treating emotional inconsistency like a puzzle that must be solved, a reward that is just out of reach, a signal that might become clear next time. This is the same neurological mechanism seen in gambling systems. You don't keep pulling a lever because you win. You keep pulling because the next pull might be the win. And in relationships, the translation is subtle but powerful. You don't keep thinking because you are loved. You keep thinking because you are almost loved again. Segment 3. Real-world manipulation. Now here's where psychology becomes uncomfortable, because scarcity is not just a brain glitch, it is a tool. In social behavior, in marketing, in attraction dynamics, scarcity is deliberately used to increase perceived value. Think about it. The last one available. Limited time only a few spots left. Seen just now. These are not descriptions, they are psychological triggers. Because the moment your brain detects limitation, it stops evaluating logically. It starts reacting emotionally. But the most powerful form of scarcity is not physical, it is emotional. When someone becomes inconsistent, warm, then cold, present, then absent, they become psychologically amplified in your mind. Not because they are better, but because they are unpredictable. And unpredictability creates mental obsession. Your mind begins to fill gaps. What did I do wrong? Are they losing interest? Did I misread everything? And in trying to solve the uncertainty, you become more attached, not less. This is why emotional unavailability is often mistaken for depth. This is why distance feels like mystery, and mystery feels like value. But one real-world phenomenon shows this more clearly than anything else: intermittent reinforcement in toxic relationships. People don't leave easily, not because they are weak, but because the brain becomes addicted to the pattern of return. A little attention after silence feels like relief, and relief feels like love. How this is already inside you. But here's the part no one wants to admit. You don't need a toxic relationship to experience scarcity. You experience it every day. You ignore messages that are always available, but obsess over ones that are not. You lose interest in people who are fully present, but overthink the ones who pull away. You don't chase consistency, you chase uncertainty. Even your memories work this way. Think about it. You don't remember every normal day of your life. You remember the rare ones. The fight that changed everything. The night something almost happened. The moment someone almost stayed. Your brain filters life through scarcity, and that means you are not in love with people. You are in love with moments of absence and return. But here's the real question. If your brain confuses scarcity with value, how many of your desires are actually real, and how many are just psychological illusions? So the next time someone pulls away, and your mind suddenly decides they are more important than ever, ask yourself something uncomfortable. Are you missing them, or are you reacting to their disappearance? Because the human mind doesn't always chase love. Sometimes it chases absence. And the scariest part is, the less you have, the more your mind convinces you that you need it. But if scarcity creates desire, then what happens when you finally get everything you thought you wanted? Does the desire disappear, or was it never real in the first place? And that is why you need to watch the next videos.